Making headlines this hour, foreign ministers of China and the Maldives hold a sixth round of consultations in Mali City. Air, surface and dive teams continue the search for a sea cucumber fisherman who went missing near Hureli Island of Alif Dal Atoll on Thursday. And the Iraqi Prime Minister announces the start of an offensive to dislodge IS militants from the western side of Mosul as troops begin moving in their direction.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Welcome you all to TVM News in English. I'm Zunat Hassan here with the news in details. China's Assistant Minister of Foreign Affairs, Kong Shuanyu, meets President Abdullah Yamin Abdul Gayoom. During the meeting held at the President's office, the President warmly welcomed the Assistant Minister to the Maldives and conveyed good wishes to the President of China, Xi Jinping, the government and the friendly people of China. While emphasizing that the government of Maldives attaches very high importance to its relations with China, the President expressed his sincere gratitude for the strengthened cooperation between the Maldives and China, as well as for the support and assistance that China continues to extend for the socio-economic development of the Maldives. Discussions that followed included exploring further areas of cooperation between the two countries. The Assistant Foreign Minister highlighted that China and the Maldives have enjoyed cordial relations over the past years and expressed confidence that the existing relations between the two countries will go from strength to strength in the years ahead. Speaking of the ongoing mega projects in the Maldives, assisted by the Chinese government, the Assistant Foreign Minister emphasized that the projects are symbolic of the friendly relations between China and the Maldives. He further noted China will continue working together with the Maldives to enhance the existing ties of friendship and cooperation between the two countries. In closing, the Assistant Foreign Minister conveyed assurances of continued assistance from China to the Maldives under the leadership of President Xi Jinping. The President was accompanied at the call by Minister of Foreign Affairs Dr. Mohammad Asim and Minister of State for Foreign Relations at the President's office Mohammad Nasir. China's Assistant Foreign Minister was accompanied by Ambassador of China to the Maldives, Wang Fukan, and the Third Secretary of China's Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Wang Fei. Foreign ministries of China and the Maldives hold a sixth round of consultations in Mali City.
The sixth round of consultations between the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Maldives and the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of China was held at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs on Sunday. During the consultations, the two countries discussed cooperation in areas of mutual interest, including development cooperation, tourism promotion, human resource development, youth and sports, trade as well as investment cooperation between the two countries. The two countries also exchanged views on development projects such as China-Maldives Friendship Bridge project, social housing and the project to upgrade and expand Velana International Airport. This year marks the 45th anniversary of the establishment of the diplomatic relations between the Maldives and China. A series of events have been planned to celebrate the occasion colourfully in both countries throughout the year. The Maldives delegation was headed by Secretary Bilateral Ahmad Halil and the Chinese delegation was headed by Assistant Minister of Foreign Affairs Kong Shuanyu.
China's Assistant Minister of Foreign Affairs pays a courtesy call on Minister of Foreign Affairs Dr. Mohammad Asim. During the call, the Foreign Minister and China's Assistant Minister of Foreign Affairs exchanged views on further strengthening the bilateral relations between the two countries. Minister Asim highlighted the invaluable contributions made by China over the recent years to the socio-economic development of the Maldives and, on behalf of the government, thanked the government of China for the numerous development projects currently ongoing in the Maldives under the assistance of China. Foreign Minister Asim was accompanied at the meeting by Bilateral Secretary Ahmad Khalil, Joint Secretary Aishat Azima and Director at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs Ahmad Fazil. Air, surface and dive teams continued the search for a sea cucumber fisherman who went missing near Hureli Island of Alif Dal Atoll on Thursday. 23-year-old Ahmad Jailam from Lamag of Shavin Atoll went missing while diving for sea cucumber along with 9 other fishermen. MNDF Coast Guard has already searched an area of 1,000 nautical miles in the operation. At a press conference, the Coast Guard's Principal Director and Search and Rescue Mission Coordinator, Lieutenant Colonel Mohammed Salim, said the extensive sea and air search is joined by vessels from islands and resorts in the area. The Coast Guard says Dylan is 5 feet 6 inches tall and was wearing a black wetsuit and diving gear at the time of his disappearance, and urges vessels traveling in the area to be on the outlook for the missing fisherman. Economic Minister Mohammed Said lauds President Abdullah Yamin Abdul Gayoom for initiating projects that will revolutionize the country's economy. Speaking on TVM Rajamid program, he noted the current administration's efforts to bring unprecedented development to the country with major projects that would elevate the economy to new heights. He added that people who doubted some of the major development projects now believe that the government is quite capable of delivering its pledges. Speaking on the program, Managing Director of Housing Development Corporation HDC Mohammed Simon said development projects in Hulumale have increased significantly since President Yamin took office, and those projects have created numerous jobs. Ministry of Islamic Affairs hold a forum on the topic Bonds of Kinship. At the forum held at the Islamic Center last night, lectures on the topic were delivered by Sheikh Ahmad Samir bin Ibrahim and Sheikh Ahmad Fahmi Didi. The topic highlighted the importance of upholding ties of kinship in Islam to achieve social cohesion and perpetuating cooperation and love among the people. It also focused on issues affecting kinship and ways to mend broken ties of kinship. The lectures were followed by a question and answer session. Students and members of the general public attended the forum. Some of the major companies in the tourism industry says the country is seeing an increase in tourist arrivals. Speaking to PSM News, Managing Director of INA Maldives, Mohammed Firaq, said the inflow of tourists are increasing with a surge in arrivals from Eastern Europe, Middle East and new markets. He highlighted that the number of bookings made till June 2017 has increased compared to previous years. INA Maldives, which is one of the biggest travel companies in the country, has been working to promote the Maldives in Iran. The company is planning to hold a road show in Iran to promote the Maldives as a travel destination. India's $150 billion IT industry, the cornerstone of a thriving economic partnership with the United States, is on the edge as it closely monitors how US President Donald Trump's administration will manage policies around outsourcing and movement of skilled workers.
India's software service industry is concerned about a bill introduced in the US Congress seeking to double the salary paid to H-1B visa holders, which could dramatically increase the cost for the Indian companies employing them. Indian IT sector leaders will meet both US lawmakers and officials from Trump's administration to lobby against any major changes to visa regulations. President of Indian IT industry body NESCOM, Chandrasekhar Ranthala, said details of the visit were still being finalized, but chief executives from some of India's big IT companies would be part of a delegation visiting Washington in the week of February 20th. India's Trade Minister Nirmala Sitharaman said the government was concerned and that any such moves by the US would have an impact on India. India's IT firms led by Tata Consultancy Services, Infosys and Wipro have seen growth slow in 2016 as customers delayed spending ahead of the US presidential election. Staff from those three companies accounted for around 86,000 new H-1B workers in 2005 to 14. The US currently issues close to that number of H-1B visas each year. While few expect a complete shutdown of skilled worker visas, as Indian engineers are an established part of the fabric of Silicon Valley and US businesses depend on their cheaper IT and software solutions, any changes are likely to push up costs. IT players told Reuters late last year they plan to speed up local hiring, acquire US firms with bigger local workforces, and make renewed push on automation to counter the regulatory threat. Meanwhile, workers at the IT hub of Gurgaon on the outskirts of Indian capital see the proposed move as regressive. Given that US markets account for 60% of India's IT exports, Trump's America First utterances have reinforced worries of protectionist posturing and unnerved the Indian IT industry, which as it is has been battling headwinds of a slowing growth. The head of the Union for Business Process Outsourcing Employees, R. Karthik Shekhar, said Indian companies should not keep all their eggs in one basket and look for opportunities in other countries as well. India and US have a joint target of $500 billion bilateral trade, and experts say it may not be easy for the US to ignore India's concerns.
Poll preparations for the third phase of state elections in India's Uttar Pradesh province are in full swing a day before voters go and seal the fate of representatives for 69 seats across 12 districts of the state.
A 7-phase voting is underway in Uttar Pradesh to elect a new assembly to govern the mostly poor state of nearly 220 million people that lies along the river Ganges. Over 299,000 voters are expected to cast their votes, with 826 candidates in fray. In Kanpur city, an official said that a heavy security presence has been deployed to counter any untoward incidents. Meanwhile, Election Commission officers in other poll-bound cities of Etawah and provincial capital Lucknow were seen placing electronic voting machines and informational banners at polling stations. The election in Uttar Pradesh is the world's largest this year and will have a key influence on Modi's chances of clinching a second term as Prime Minister in 2019. Modi's Bharatiya Janata Party hopes to defeat two heavyweight regional parties but will struggle to replicate its general election result when it polled 42% of the vote and won 71 of 80 constituencies in the battleground state. Final results on March 11 in Uttar Pradesh and 4 other state elections will deliver voters' first verdict on Modi's shock decision on November to withdraw 86% of the cash in circulation. The banknote ban was launched to purge the economy of black money, untaxed income and proceeds of crime and corruption, but it has disrupted daily life and caused an economic slowdown.
Videos posted on a social media website purport to show the aftermath of the airstrikes in eastern Damascus on Saturday.
The footage said to be shot in the eastern neighborhood of Al Gabon appears to show clouds of smoke rising above buildings. The second clip appears to show a makeshift hospital where a number of people are seen receiving treatment for injuries said to be resulted from airstrikes targeting Al Gabon area. The British-based War Monitor, the Syrian Observatory for Human Rights, said on Saturday that Jobar, another eastern neighborhood in Damascus, has also been bombarded by Syrian army amid continued clashes between regime forces and rebels in the area. Intense violence has been raging elsewhere in the country for months. Earlier this month, Syrian warplanes resumed bombardment of besieged rebel-held district of Homs, north of Damascus. The observatory reported that in insurgent control areas in Deraa in southern Syria, government and Syrian warplanes increased their bombardment of rebel-held areas, carrying out at least 70 airstrikes on the city and towns in the eastern Deraa countryside on Friday and Saturday. Russia backs Damascus in its fight against insurgents, but has supported, along with rebel backer Turkey, a ceasefire deal that was put in place in December and covers western Syria. The warring sides have accused each other of violating the ceasefire, and fighting has tarnished it almost since it began.
Iraqi Prime Minister Haider al-Abadi announces the start of the offensive to dislodge IS from the western side of Mosul as troops begin moving in their direction. The Defense Ministry said Iraqi plans dropped millions of leaflets on western Mosul, warning residents that the offensive was imminent. The militants are essentially under siege in western Mosul, along with an estimated 650,000 civilians, after US-backed forces surrounding the city forced them from the east in the first phase of an offensive that concluded last month. The offensive to dislodge IS from Mosul, its last major city stronghold in Iraq, started in October. Local authorities say that a bus traveling to Chile flipped over in Argentina's Mendoza province, killing at least 19 people on a remote mountain road in the Andes. The Chilean company operating the vehicle, Turbus, confirmed the crash on Route 7 in the Aconcagua Park in a statement. It gave no casualty figures and said it did not know why the bus turned over. A civil defense spokesman in Mendoza said there were 19 confirmed deaths. An unidentified survivor told Argentina's Channel 13 that the bus had been going fast despite complaints and shouts from the passengers. Turbus said that the bus had 40 passengers, of whom 32 were Argentinians, including 3 children. The company said it was working to find out the identities of the victims. Turkish Prime Minister Binali Yildirim tells a large crowd in Germany's Oberhausen that nations needed to unite around Turkey.
Yildirim was on the campaign trail recommending a yes vote in the upcoming constitutional Turkish referendum on April 16. A yes vote will replace its parliamentary system with the stronger presidency long sought by incumbent Tayyip Erdogan. It would enable the president to issue decrees, declare emergency rule and appoint ministers and top state officials. It could also see Erdogan remain in power in the NATO member state till 2029. Erdogan supporters sees the plan as a guarantee of stability at a time of turmoil. Turkey's security is threatened by the wars in neighboring Syria and Iraq and by a spate of IS and Kurdish militant attacks. Opponents fear a lurch toward authoritarianism in a nation which has seen tens of thousands of people, from teachers and journalists to soldiers and police, detained since a failed coup attempt last July. Addressing a crowd of AK party supporters on Saturday, Yildirim called on nations to unite around Turkey. Turkey launched an incursion last August to push IS from northern Syria's Al-Bab, 20 miles from the Turkish border. Turkish newspaper Hurriyet reported on Saturday that Turkey has also presented 2 proposals to the United States for how to carry out a joint military operation to drive IS from its stronghold in the Syrian city of Raqqa. Ankara has said repeatedly that the planned operation should be conducted by local Arab forces, possibly with support from Turkish troops, as opposed to the US-backed Syrian Democratic Forces SDF, an alliance dominated by Kurdish YPG militia. Washington's support for the SDF, which launched a campaign to encircle Raqqa in November, has caused tension with NATO ally Turkey. Ankara views the Kurdish militia as an extension of militants fighting on its own soil.
Chinese Foreign Minister Wang Yi meets with Afghan President Mohammad Ashraf Ghani on the sidelines of the 2017 Munich Security Conference. Wang conveyed Chinese President Xi Jinping's greetings to Ghani, and the Afghan president also sent his warm regards to President Xi and other Chinese officials. Both spoke highly of the sustainable progress of the Sino-Afghan relations, stressing the solid foundation and right direction of bilateral ties. Wang said that China appreciates Afghanistan's firm commitment to fighting the TVM and supports its political reconciliation process, adding that China is willing to enhance cooperation between the two countries. Ghani, for his part, expresses appreciation for China's help in his country's reconstruction efforts and in pushing forward its reconciliation process. He emphasized that Afghanistan is adamantly against terrorism and will continue to combat TVM. He added that Kabul looks forward to boosting communication and connectivity with Beijing within the framework of China's One Belt, One Road initiative. As conflicts continue in eastern Ukraine, residents in the frontline town of Avdiivka are getting fed up and almost on the verge of giving up.
An earlier deadly night of fighting in Avdiivka has left civilian properties completely destroyed. The frail hands of 68-year-old Alexei Andrushko searched through the rubble of his damaged house, hoping to salvage some of his lost goods. Andrushko lives only 2 streets away from the front line. Andrushko and his wife now have to live in the only room left standing, the kitchen, after setting up windows to keep the winter chill out. According to local officials, there are 7,000 buildings in the town, but 900 have been damaged during the clashes over the past 3 years. At one point, many neighbors pointed out weapons piled over the roof of their property. Soldiers even took over and evacuated property. The residents said they are shelled daily and believe it is because the soldiers and their weapons are stored there. While both sides have agreed to withdraw heavy weapons from the front line by Monday, residents of Adivka remain skeptical.
Demonstrations hit the streets across the United States as thousands continue to gather to protest the immigration policies of U.S. President Donald Trump.
Anti-Trump protesters reported to be in their thousands-stage demonstration in U.S. cities, including Los Angeles, Dallas and Minneapolis, as Trump gets ready to hold another rally in Florida, where he's spending the weekend. The president's short tenure has been marked by turmoil over a contentious executive order limiting immigration from 7 Muslim-majority countries and the resignation of his national security advisor. While the president defended his executive order on Saturday, protesters said they will continue to march.
Well, I feel like just when you're looking back at history, you see all these movements and protests that have been so important. Every time I look at those, I'm like, oh, it would have been so cool to have participated in that. And now it's like this is our chance to be able to participate and be able to make a difference. People are angry. There's a lot of stuff going on, and it's only been a month, and it's kind of scary for a lot of people because a lot of people are actually being affected by what's going on.
Trump addressed a crowd of thousands of supporters in Melbourne, Florida late Saturday. He decried public opinion polls that show him with the high disapproval rating as phony and urged his supporters to pay no attention to them.
Tonight in sports, Switzerland's Sebastian Buemi becomes the first driver to win 3 Formula E rounds in a row in the streets of Buenos Aires. Buemi, the reigning champion and an ex-Formula 1 driver, has now won all 3 races this season for the Renault Edams team with Buenos Aires, following from Hong Kong and Morocco. He leads the standings by 29 points from Brazilian Lucas di Grassi with the next race in Mexico City on April 1st. Renault Edams have now won half of all the Formula E races that have taken place. Frenchman Jean-Éric Vergne was second in Saturday's race for the Chinese Chesty team with the Di Grassi, who started on pole position, third for Team Eb Scheffler Audio Sport. Six contestants confirmed their place in the gala round of Maldivian Idol as 2 contestants get eliminated on the first result shows of the new season.
Gada bariyadda furatama bæveriyaki. That's name. Bob.
8 out of 16 contestants performed in the first piano round of Maldivian Idol on Friday night, and last night saw the first results show of season 2. 6 contestants who made it to the gala round were decided 50% by public vote and 50% by judging panel. They are Shamvil Mohammad, Ibrahim Wahid, Mohammad Tasneem, Mohammad Hamdan, Mohammad Rihan and Shaza Abdul Rashid. The 2 contestants who bowed out of the show are Shaniza Sharif and Ahmed Sayah. Last night's show featured colorful performances by all 8 contestants. Eight contestants will perform on the second show of Piano Round, which will be aired on Friday night. It will be followed by results show on Saturday night, on which the final 6 contestants of Gala Round will be decided.
With that, we conclude the news for this evening. Thank you for being with us. Good night and goodbye.